There's the story that people tell, and then there's the truth that really matters. Welcome to the Growth Obsessed podcast. We're having real and raw conversations on leadership and business and the relentless pursuit of growth. No fluff, no highlight reels, just the struggles and the setbacks and the lessons that build true success. I'm Ben Lang, and I sit down with the most driven entrepreneurs and leaders to uncover what really shapes them, the pain, the resilience, and the breakthroughs. If you're here, you're not looking for surface level motivation. You're here to be challenged and to grow. So let's get real. Let's get uncomfortable. This is the Growth Obsessed podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now. The conversation that you need might be the one that changes everything. So today I have Chelsea Dillick, and I'm super pumped because I've known Chelsea for a long time, and I don't know like a whole lot about you, Chelsea. I know that you're super sharp and you're building an incredible team and that you're incredible at marketing because I see all your stuff everywhere, even though you're in a different state than me. So tell me like a little bit about your upbringing and then tell me like how you got into entrepreneurship.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and just have a real conversation. As a kid, I would say I was like, even as a young adult, I'd say I was always like the nice girl. That's how everybody knew me, as the nice girl. Which I most of the time liked being known as that. I was the nice girl, so I liked it. And I never saw myself in sales in any sort of way. Never thought that I would be in any kind of, not entrepreneurship, but definitely not like sales in general. And then I found a serving job and was really good at it. I loved people. I could connect really easy with people. And so I did very well there, ended up training like all the staff, and it was just super fun for me. And when I graduated college, I graduated with a health management degree, which means you basically like create your own job. Like you go into a big company and create a wellness program for them. I'm from a very small town, so that was really difficult to do here. And I went to a job fair to apply for a hospital, not what I wanted to do at all. And I found a yellow book like stand there. And there was the manager, talked to me, called me at 8 o'clock that night, said, "Do you want to go up to St. Louis for training for the next 3 weeks where we want you?" And I was like, okay, sure. I mean, I didn't know anything about anything, nothing about it at all. Went up there, spent 3 weeks learning the ins and outs of what makes me sound really old is the phone book. I'm not old. I'm very young, but I did get a little experience with the phone book. So got trained on that, went out, ended up being number one in Yellow Book worldwide, like nationwide, was the number one sales rep, and didn't think anything about it. My manager told me one day, I remember exactly where I was sitting, and he called me and he's like, "Did you see that email from our CEO?" And I'm like, "No, I'm out, like getting appointments." What? He tells me, he's like, "You're the number one sales rep in all of Yellow Book." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I was like, "Hey, I'm at this appointment though. Can I call you later?" So I get off, and luckily I had saved all those emails. And before I left Yellow Book years later, ended up printing a lot of the success stories and just to have, because later on I realized that it was a big deal. And so anyway, that kind of led one thing into another. We ended up having some products that were really hard to sell. I can't sell things I don't believe in. And so my sister asked if I wanted to get into real estate. And that's kind of how it happened. I was pregnant. I owned a boutique and I was full time traveling for Yellow Book when she asked. And I was like, "Yeah, with all my spare time, I'll get my real estate license. Cool." And so, of course, I did. And it was the best thing ever because I wanted to get rid of all the other things, all the other priorities, not the baby, but everything else. I wanted to get rid of all those other things and get into real estate. And so I did. Once I had my first closing, I was on fire from there and never really looked back.
So that's an awesome story, by the way. So number one in the entire nation for Yellow Book. You have a
Yeah.
bachelor's degree in health management. So you mentioned earlier, like when you were growing up, you were known as the nice girl, and you kind of liked being known as the nice girl. Let me ask you, just from like a entrepreneurship and standpoint, does that translate into like some people pleasing as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. It's taken me years to like overcome that. And I still have to really watch that a lot. Um, and it's weird because I am a D personality, like an I and a D. And so it just doesn't match. Like I'm like a chameleon of personalities. It just has never really made sense to me. And then I took the Enneagram, and then I realized a little bit more about myself. I'm an Enneagram 3. I know that's like, if you don't know the Enneagram, it doesn't make any sense. But basically, the achiever is what it is. And some people call it the hustler, the overworker, that kind of thing. So it can sound a negative too. But honestly, since I had my first job, I was always the hardest worker wherever I went. So sales did make sense. I just didn't know it. I was too young. I thought I was too nice. There's no way I could sell anything. And I later realized you don't have to talk anybody into buying anything. You don't have to talk them into it, especially if they just believe in you and trust in you and they need the product. You're not selling anything at that point. You're just walking through the process. So real estate was perfect because I love relationships, and real estate gets you closer to anybody. I mean, you can work with your own family member who you think you know so well, and by the end of a transaction, you know them in a whole different way than you knew them before. Usually good, but
Sure.
it's a lot.
I mean, there's usually a ton of problems and not problems, but maybe hurdles or obstacles to get through in a real estate transaction. So you really learn like not only how you deal with maybe hurdles to overcome, but how your
Yeah.
clients like deal with it too. You mentioned that your sister got you into real estate. Is your sister in real estate?
So the funny thing is, I have three younger sisters. The one who got me into real estate, she is like the most incredible person and teacher that you've ever met in your life. So she knew she wasn't getting rid of her teaching career, but she got a real estate license, was like, this is terrible. This is not fun at all. So honestly, it was a huge blessing for me because I wouldn't have done it without her. So I look and I'm so thankful that she got in it. I hate that she didn't love it, but it was what it was. Everybody's very clear about her passion is teaching, and she's great at it. But then my other sister, who I never would have thought would get into real estate, she called me about 3 or 4 years ago and said, "I think I want to get into it, but I got a lot of hurdles to overcome to figure out how I can go full time." And so we just started knocking one after the other, got into it, and absolutely crushed it. I mean, just so good. So we're on the same team now, which has been really fun to work together.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I want to know more about you being number one in the entire nation for Yellow Book. Like, what do you think? You said earlier you don't really have to sell people, and I'm a firm believer in that. You don't really have to sell people on anything, right? It's I think if we're talking about like a career in sales, I think it's really all about the know like trust. Know like trust. Like it's like okay, like be your true, genuine, authentic self and give them a reason to trust you and give them some value so that that relationship and that rapport. So it seems like you kind of innately, because you were a server first and you rocked it out there, and then so it seems like kind of like you just innately have kind of that rapport building ability to build rapport quickly. Has that always been the case?
Yeah, I just like people. I don't know. I could be in a room full of, I mean, the exact opposite people, but I can find good relationship with both of them. I can relate to anybody. I don't know why that is. I just always have been able to do that. Even in high school, I didn't really have a specific crowd. I kind of got along with everybody. There was nothing that was, I don't know. It's just kind of how I've always been. I think serving also like exacerbated that because I was more quiet being younger, but then once I kind of found my place there and found something I was good at and I really enjoyed, then I knew from there I could really take off and do something that I knew I wanted to do something I loved and enjoyed in my entire life. I didn't want to have a job that I went to that I didn't love. And Yellow Book, I loved it. And then when things changed, it wasn't the same. And so no longer could I get behind things. And that's when I knew something had to change. But I had already been in sales, so I knew I could do that. And I knew I wanted the harder I worked, the more money I would make. I've always been driven, not by money, by relationships. And I know if I can change somebody's business or their life, then I'll work forever to help make that happen. I think that's why I started the team too, is because I saw what real estate could do. So if I could start the team, then helping other entrepreneurs, go after their dreams. And so it's just kind of been one thing after the other. But I will say, whenever I was younger and really got started in sales, at Yellow Book, what was so kind of crazy is I had a good manager who trained me well, but I didn't question anything. I didn't like go in and question everything he said. It was some of it was really weird, but I just did it. Like I just went after it and I just did everything he said. And I knew what my peers around me were doing because I had a team then. There was like 7 of us or something like that that sold in particular areas. And I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. I just have to do it harder. And we had a great team. I mean, like the highest producing team in the whole country. So that was a lot due to the manager, training us well, but then also us just seeing what others were doing and working hard.
So relationships, coachability is what I heard too. That like you're very coachable. You didn't really question, even if you thought it was weird. like
Yeah.
you
A
being
lot of my
coachable.
naiveness, I will say. I am a naive person. I've always been that way. But in this situation, it did me very, very well. I just did what they told me to do, and that was it.
Well, yeah, because I think being coachable is like really important to success. Because if you're not coachable, you're just trying to reinvent the wheel, right? And then
Yeah.
it
Without
just
a doubt
takes so
that.
much longer to figure it all out, and you're making the mistakes that you don't need to make. I want to know what's what's one moment in your life that kind of changed you forever. What's that one? I think everyone has that one moment that kind of changed the whole trajectory of their life. What was that for you?
Yeah. So I would say I am a person who's always believed like I've never gone through anything hard. Like I've never lost anybody like crazy, crazy close to me. I've never been through anything really like dramatic. So I was always like, oh, I don't have a story. Like I don't have that like story that so many people have that they went through this like traumatic, crazy thing in their life. And so it's kind of a story I always told myself. I'm like, oh, it's either that or I just don't look at anything as a problem. I'm not really sure. But I will say a few years ago, nothing that's like a really crazy, extravagant story in my life. It still is that. But I had a pastor tell me, my current pastor, he told me to stop thinking small. He's like, you're just, what you have inside of you is so much bigger than what you see. And you have to stop thinking so small. And I felt like I always knew it. I just never acted on that. And so from that day, that was just a few years ago, everything I do, I go back to that moment and I think about it. How am I acting in this moment? And what am I doing? Am I doing the safe thing or am I doing what feels like the right thing? And sometimes it's extremely challenging to make that, but it was kind of my moment of I don't have to have gone through something devastatingly hard and have this wildly, extravagant testimony for my story to still be strong. And so that was a huge life change for me is to look at everything that I'm doing now and think, am I thinking big enough? And it's not really about me either. I got to work for something that's bigger than myself.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. So, what is it that you're working for that's bigger than yourself?
So really, this is how you get people to cry, isn't it? This is how you get people. No, so whenever I first got into coaching, everybody talks about your why. You got to figure out your why. Got to figure out your why. And I'm like, I always thought, oh, my family, like my kids, just keeping everything moving together and everybody on the same page. And of course, that is incredibly important. But I realized that it's not just about keeping everything together, which, my parents got divorced when I was 6. And so I think that's why I thought that. It was like, oh, yeah, if you just keep everything together, keep everybody together, that's the goal. And I realized, I thought back to like some of my happiest times in my childhood were whenever I would get one on one time with each one of my parents. I always felt like I was super, super lucky because my parents were divorced, but they got along really well. They always, for the most part, had a really great relationship. So I always felt really blessed, for that. And I never looked at it as a negative on me or our family really. But having my own family definitely made me think a little bit differently. And so I realized that it was about the time that we spent together and about the things that we experienced together. And so I over time have realized that experiences are my why. And the why ultimately brings us closer together. And those experiences, a lot of times I'll say, trips together, traveling, you get to know somebody better than you've ever known anybody ever is by traveling with them. And so it's not about what we're seeing, it's just the experience of being together. And so those trips are extremely important to me. So I'm not working to go on vacations and live this lavish lifestyle. It's all about the experiences and the relationships. So relationships are ultimately my why.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, tell me about some of the places that you've gone in the last couple of years that where you were able to create some awesome memories and have some great experiences.
Yeah. So really working on that. But most recently, we rented an RV and went out west, which I've never been out west other than for like conferences and things like that. I've never really adventured. So my husband wanted to rent an RV and do like a just us four. We have two kids. And so just take the RV and go see what we see. And we did. It was like almost a 2 week trip. And we jam packed it full of stuff, but it was awesome. I mean, just again, like the experiences and that time together, it really is just, it was so awesome. And it also made us realize that more trips, just us, are super important. We go on a lot of trips with family and friends, which we love. Like we love being around everybody. But some of those trips, just being us four, are also really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's something like with my daughter, like I've taken her to Cedar Point. I don't know if you know what Cedar Point. It's an amusement
Yeah.
park. Like it's our annual trip. We do it every year for like the last 7 years. And it's
Awesome.
just like, I don't know, it's just like me and her. And it's something about it. It's just something like I look forward to every year. Um, that's awesome about the just did you make like a detailed plan or did you just like
I have a
go?
funny story. So yeah, I'm the planner for sure. But since my husband wanted to be the one to like, this was his idea, his trip, and I was like, that's awesome. I'm all about it. Then you'll plan this one. Like since this is kind of your thing, you'll plan it, which was fine. That was great. But he's usually not the planner, so he's like, when we got to talking about, it, I'm like, where in the world do we even start with this thing? So what do? Go to ChatGPT. And so I went in and I told it, we have two kids this age. This is what we're thinking about doing. We want to rent an RV. Where do we even do that at? We're thinking about leaving on this date, coming back this date. We start in Cape and then we go, all the way around out to the west. And we for sure want to see the Grand Canyon. That's like the one thing that we definitely want to see, provide a trip with daily details and plans and everything. And it came back with every single day, the hot spots to go to, everything we needed to book, links, all of it. And so I said, this is our chat GPT vacation. Awesome. And so I printed it out, gave it to my husband. He was like, what? I mean, we had just talked about this. He's like, what is this? I'm like, it's chat GPT. Like that's who came up with this. And he goes, okay. So of course he double checked everything, like looked at reviews and went back, and there was a couple things that were tweaks, but for the most part, it was really just following that. So funny, but so awesome.
You gotta love AI. It really does simplify life.
It was so crazy. Everybody asked, like, did you get a travel agent or how did you know where to go? I'm like, no, it took about 5 minutes. Now there was a lot more planning that goes to, like, to give him credit. He had to go in and book all those things and make sure all the times, like, for driving and all of that, like, still made sense for us. But yeah, it
That's
really
all.
did everything.
I keep telling my wife I want to do that for 2 years, but I want to go aimlessly. I want to buy an RV or motor coach or whatever. Just
Yeah.
go like just a 2 year mark and just I don't know, just start driving and just start stopping. And I don't know. She thinks I'm nuts, but I think I'm getting her closer to the being agreeable to it.
Keep doing it because I was the same. I'm like, I'm not a camper. I don't like love camping. I'll go for like a weekend. I don't like love the idea. I mean, obviously this is an RV, not a tent, but still like just the camping in general. I'm like, really like condos and stuff.
Yeah, me
Like,
too. Me too. I'm not gonna stay in a tent, trust me. But like
no.
some of these RVs are like luxury
Oh yeah.
condos. They're
Yes, they are. Yes, they
they're
definitely are. So I was like, okay, I had determined before we went, I'm like, I just am gonna have to go with the flow. Like I didn't plan this. This isn't my like I'm just gonna enjoy it and whatever happens, happens. And it was perfect. Everything was great. It wasn't busy. Like every place that we went wasn't busy. I'm not sure if it was because it was outdoors and not like theme park stuff. I don't know. But everywhere we went was I don't know. I just thought it would be the busiest season and it wasn't, which was perfect. So I said, we came back home and I was like, maybe RV life is for me life. I don't know, but I never thought I would say that ever, but it
I'm
went so well.
telling you.
Maybe
There's
pretty
something
good.
to it. There's something
Yeah.
to it. I want to go back to so your pastor said stop playing small and so I've got like a follow-up question to that. So what's the biggest risk that you've ever taken in your entire life that literally changed everything?
Well, that's such a big question. So I mean, what immediately comes to mind if I just say like the very first thing is honestly, I think it's actually being a mom. I knew I would probably always be a parent, but I never before I had kids, I was always like, "Oh, I don't know. I like to work. Like I'm not the most like I didn't know if I would be the momliest mom ever. I didn't know how nurturing I would be. I'm pretty like just go. And so before having kids, I really thought about it. And like, I have no idea how this is what it's going to look like, but I don't know. It's just once you have kids, like something just, I'm like totally different. I mean, the same, but different. And so I don't know if like having kids is a risk, maybe, but that I would say was like a huge thing for me. And for me personally, and maybe even like a confidence kind of thing is like something I just had no clue how it would turn out. And then once I had my first, it was the best, like the best thing in the entire world. And then after I had her, I knew like we wanted another one, but I had known since I was young I would have two girls, like just pretty well. I don't know why, but my entire life I've pretty much known I'd have two girls. And so we went in for the second ultrasound, like with our second one, and they told us it was a girl. We were like, okay. And she was, oh my gosh, that's not what you were wanting. Are you not happy? And I'm like, oh, no, we just knew. Like, we just knew. It's okay. Like, it's great. We're so excited. We just knew that's what it was going to be. And so I would say that was like a moment where it wasn't all about me anymore. It wasn't just about what I needed to do for me, but what really it just gave me a whole different outlook on life, a whole different perspective, and caring for other people so much more, not just my kids, but everybody around me, and how much I could give back and pour into others, which means I had to be the best version of myself too, which is also difficult.
Yeah, I love that you just said that. I talk about that all the time, like being the best version of yourself, because that's what the people in your life actually deserve, right? Somebody was telling me something like the other day, and they were saying that they heard it on social media, but they were saying, I just heard this the other day, and it's like we all say like, okay, we'll die for our kids, or we'll take a bullet for our kids, but we won't like go to the gym and eat healthy to live longer for our kids. And like so he was saying it and I was like, man, like that's a really I've never thought about it that way, right? Like
Yeah, it's so, so good. My dad has always said that. So my dad's always been healthy and always try to like work out. That's why I went to college for what I went to college for. And he's always said, like, if I don't work out, how long can like how number one, how can I ever expect you guys to be healthy if I'm not? Like I'm not training good habits. And then also like if I don't set this as a priority, will I see my grandkids? Will I be around? Like I don't know. I don't have any say in that if I'm not doing anything about it. At least if I'm working out and eating healthy, I've done everything I can do, or I've put my best foot forward to be around and live my best life for you guys. And so I always really respected him for that. He also, one of the things, and I tell my team this all the time, he says, well, I grew up working out with him like on the gym floor. I wanted to be out there. I didn't want to be with the kids. Like I wanted to be out with like the bodybuilders. So that's when my dad was with all the big bodybuilders. And I just wanted to be back there with them at like 12. And the gym let me. They weren't supposed to, but they let me. And so when I got old enough to drive, I'd meet him at the gym after school. And he'd say, are we meeting at the gym today? I'm like, some days like, I don't know. Or, I'm not sure. I'll call you after school. And he's like, then you're not going. Well, I might call you after school. And I don't know. It just depends how I feel. He's like, no, you give yourself an option. You're not going to go. He's like, you have your gym bag? No. He's like, then you already know you're not going to go. You're not prepared and you're giving yourself an option. If you do those two things, you're never going to go. And so that's what I say about prospecting, going to the gym. Anything you want to do, you don't think about it. You don't give yourself an option. You just walk in the gym and go. It's just one thing. You drive there after school, grab your gym bag, go in, change, work out, and it's done. You don't think about every step. You just do the steps.
that was awesome conditioning. Good job, Dad.
Yeah, that's why I said
Awesome.
I had no idea. It was super tricky. I had no idea as a kid anything about that he was really conditioning me, but that is 100% the truth. And we worked out together until I was probably like, I don't know, 22 throughout college. And I'd go meet him at the gym. Super thankful to be able to do that, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I started telling my daughter at like 11, I'm like, "Hey, I want you to master these 3 things." She thought it was nuts. She still does. She thinks I'm nuts. I'm like, "Hey, I want you to like master like what moves people, like human psychology. Like if you can master human psychology and start learning like what makes people take action, what makes people tick right now, like
Yeah.
you'll dominate in life." And then the second thing is like managing yourself, like self-discipline, right? And just like making like like the alarm goes off. Nobody in the entire world likes it when the alarm clock goes off.
Yeah.
Like you're
No.
not the only one, right? You
Yeah.
just get out of bed and one foot follows the other. And I'm like teaching her this stuff at like 11, 12. She's going to be 14 next week. And so I'm like
So good.
trying to like keep like putting this stuff out there. So I think kudos to your dad for like conditioning you early on in life, because I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing to start teaching your kids this stuff early. Let me ask you this. So you talked about being a mom. Like what has being an entrepreneur taught you about being a mom, and what has being a mom taught you about entrepreneurship?
Well, that's so good. That's such a great question. Well, first of all, I learned that there is no perfect work life balance. And there are going to be times where you're totally out of whack on one end or the other. And, I don't think it's about giving yourself grace necessarily. I think it's about being conscious of it and actually knowing where you're at, because sometimes it really sneaks up on you. And so, starting the team, getting into real estate, I felt like I was super out of whack. Now, looking back, I would, I knew what I wanted to build and I knew I was going to do it no matter what. And I do still think I was a great mom, even when the babies were, even when my girls were babies and I was working a lot. I still always made a priority. But I was working a lot. I mean, I was working a ton of hours and I still work a lot. But I, over time, realized how to manage things a lot better. And so I think having them made me realize that, because if I didn't have kids, I just work 24/7. It's just, I don't just like it. I don't know. It's just the accomplishment or the feeling of helping others. There's just so much goodness about it that I just love that I would probably do that all the time. And so having the girls also, especially now that they're older, they're 7 and 9 now. And so I think now it's even different than when they were little because, of course, at that time, I'm doing this for them so we can go do more fun things and, all of that. But also as they've gotten older, I'm like, we're building something. And the girls, like, keep them informed. Like, I don't keep them totally out of my business. Like, they know that what we're doing is helping other people. They ask questions about it. They are somewhat involved, just kind of on a, they understand the business a little bit. And they even ask questions about, we talk about finances. We talk about financially what things look like. And I wasn't taught about money as a kid. We didn't really have any money as a kid. And so, I want my kiddos to understand a lot more than I did, not necessarily about how much money you make, but what you do with it. Understanding what profit is, even though they're young, or understanding how a bank account works. My 9-year-old, she asked me all these questions about maybe like 6 months ago. She's like, so, because I had started them a bank account several years ago, but they went in with their piggy banks, brought it in, deposited it, and got the receipt to see how much it was and all the things. And they were so excited that it went somewhere. Well, then we have done that every year on their birthday. And once a year, we go put everything in their piggy bank in there. And they're like, she said, so what if I want my money back? Like, well, then you just go to the bank and you deposit or you withdraw. You just get your money out. And she's like, so they like have my money. Basically, they're stealing my money. And I said, not stealing it, they're using it and they use it to make more money. That's what banks do. And she's like, oh my gosh, wait, what? So they're using my money to make more money? And then we went down this whole thing of, just what type of bank accounts. And she's like, well, how do I make money on my money instead of them doing it? Then we started talking about, high yield savings accounts. Maybe we should put your money in a high yield savings account. So then we transferred everything over. And anyway, it was just all these fun conversations. And I'm not trying to get them to like understand everything in the world. I don't want them overly concerned about money at 7 and 9, but I do want them to start understanding it a little bit and how it works. And so getting their brains working like that and asking me a bunch of questions and just, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just so, so important. I didn't know anything. I mean, I'm still learning, I'm still fueling my brain with coaching and books and podcasts and everything else so I can learn more about it. But if they can start younger, by all means, that's great.
I'm totally agreeable. I mean, my dad was a butcher for 35 years. He had a learning disability. He was deaf in 1 year. Like, so I didn't really like learn very much. And I'm not saying like he was a bad dad. I'm just saying like as far as like finances and business and maybe things
Yeah.
that would help me later in life, I didn't really get that. So like I think I kind of overcompensate with my daughter.
100%. And I think times are really different too, because blue collar looks much different. In my opinion, it looks a lot different. And entrepreneurship looks a lot different now too. Used to, you got a job, you stayed there for your entire life. It was just what you were supposed to do or what you were kind of trained to do. And now I don't believe that as much. You go after your dreams, you build something, and, everybody's different. But I think it's talked about a lot more now.
You you said a couple things. You mentioned building something a couple times. And I say that all the time too. I'm like, I'm trying to build something and I talk about like one of my whys is and one of the strongest whys for me is and I say it all the time. I want to be sitting at like I can envision me sitting at a dinner table with my daughter, and she's like 25 years old, and I'm like 65 or whatever, and she's like, like, Dad, like, I really like, look at all the lives that you've changed. Like, look at this thing that you've built, and not just built it for you, but built it where it like trickled down. There was a trickle down effect. And like I envision that a lot. And then I've heard you say, like, I want to build this, I'm building. I've heard you say it like times now. So dig into that a little bit more. Tell me more about what that means to you.
I want to change people's lives. I mean, and I know it's so easy to like say, yeah, you want to change a lot of people's lives, but I really mean like changing lives can be in so many different ways too. I don't look at it as just like a financial change. Like somebody can join my team and they can make a lot more money, and that's awesome. And I hope that they do, and that'll always be a goal of ours, is to make them successful financially. But I also believe that our lives can be changed in a lot of different ways, and it may not be like this massive something for the rest of their lives. It might be a moment that changes something in their life, and I'm okay with that. As a team leader and any entrepreneur, when you have people come onto your team or onto your staff, sometimes they don't stay there for a long time. And used to, it was really painful for me, because I always looked internally, like, what did I do? Or why do we have this person here when they're just going to turn around and leave? Well, we had this girl that came onto the team, and it wasn't working. I don't think she loved real estate. It just wasn't going to be a successful career for her. And she was one, I'm like, why? Then how did she land here? How did we, get to this point? And one day at one of our team meetings, she comes in and she's talking about her heart and, some issues she's having. And my sister looks at her, who's also on my team, and says, I think you have long QT syndrome. And she's like, what the heck is long QT syndrome? Everybody at the table is like, what's long QT syndrome? And she starts explaining it a little bit. Well, we had a cousin who passed away from this years ago. And so we know what it is. And she was telling her, she's like, it kind of sounds like it. I know it's not common, but you need to go to the doctor. Goes to the doctor, asks specifically about that, gets tested, comes back and says, I have long QT syndrome. I'm going to be on medicine my entire life. He said, if we wouldn't have caught it, well, a lot of people pass with it. It's just is how it is. And I think everybody at the table is like, oh my gosh, wow, that's so wild. That affected me. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything we're doing here isn't about finances, about money, about status, about all of this stuff. This is literally changing lives in ways I have no idea. Conversations that are being had around this table. A couple weeks ago, I saw all the guys on our team come up from downstairs with Bibles in their hands. And I'm like, they didn't tell me what they were doing. I didn't ask what they were doing, but I know they're doing some kind of Bible study or something. And I'm like, if it's just a seed, if they left tomorrow and something is different in their heart, or something is trajectory, like looking different in their life, then we did it. And that's okay. Like, that's great. That is so awesome. So really a huge thing for me is, in the changing lives, it's not going to be in ways that I even know about, probably a lot of times.
That one story is extremely powerful, first of all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a true believer in a season or a reason. I've struggled as a team leader with, feeling like this betrayal, and it has nothing to do with me, and just having to get over myself and my own ego. Just
Oh, I
understand that.
think we all go through that, because you just look internally as like,
Yeah.
why is everyone not successful? Why does everyone not find their purpose here? Why does everyone not find their place? And it's just not going to be like that. Any workplace, that's never how it goes.
No, there's so like this podcast has been going on for a while. I've had a ton of guests on here. There's always like these common themes, and faith is a very common theme. And like very successful entrepreneurs, like amazing people, and faith, a strong faith across the board. Can't think of anyone who's been on this podcast who's not strong in their faith. Tell me about your faith.
So I believe that when God is in your business, that your business just functions differently. So, and I know a lot of people who I don't want to bring up their faith in front of their team because they don't know what they believe or whatnot. But we just run in a place of if that isn't for you, because I don't know everybody who joins the team before. Like I don't know all of them that well. I don't get to know super deep a lot of times what their faith looks like before they join. But I do know that in how we run in alignment, that everyone that I hope I say this correctly, but almost everyone that runs in alignment with us all runs very similar in their faith. And I can't really say 100% why that is, other than just a lot of prayer over our team, over our clients, all of our clients. We pray over all of them. Anyone over our database, literally every ounce of our business is I'm praying over all the time. But I also believe that's why so many miracles have happened and so many crazy things. We've had a lot of agents come in with a lot of personal stuff happen. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like why did this happen after they just joined the team? Like how did this happen with their spouse, or how did this happen with their, just all these different crazy things. But then I also see them how the season goes and their faith gets stronger through some of the most difficult things because of the rally and support that they have around them with the team. Because we're very open to say, that we're praying for each other and that we're praying over our clients and we do all of those things. And it just, yeah. So that's like faith in business side. But I just can't imagine. I've never lived without it, I guess. I've never known a life without the Lord. So I can't speak like a whole ton to what it would look like without him, but I do know that everything he's in the middle of runs a lot smoother.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I feel like you've reached you've amassed some success in your life, and like I said in the very beginning, you're successful, you're smart, you've got like a lot of things that you have built already, and no doubt you'll continue to build like this incredible thing. I can't wait to see what it ends up looking like in 10 years. Um, but let me ask you, like, what's the one thing that maybe success didn't fix for you?
Probably, I would say more internal. I've always been that achiever person who like wanted more and more and always wanted to achieve more. And I think specifically over just the last couple of years, I realized that it isn't about the status for me, or it isn't like I'm going to achieve this and all of a sudden now I'm successful. I really had to shift what that looks like internally for me. It isn't, I don't know that it's not really coming out right, but it isn't really about me. It isn't about what internally is going to give me the next level. It's more about how many more lives we can change. And that's more my motivation now. That makes
Yeah, I
sense.
love that. I love that. That's really cool. What's one thing that you wish that more people understood about the price of chasing their dreams?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. You better be willing to give up some things that you never thought you would give up. And you better be willing to put the priorities where they should be. And I really mean that, because without the priorities where they should be and knowing where they should be, everything else gets really messed up and super easy to mess that up. Very, very easy. But you got to keep the forefront in mind all the time.
What are some of the things that you've had to sacrifice to get to where you are today?
I mean, time in general, I mean, even a lot younger, like before real estate or anything, there were a lot of times where my family would get together and they would go do something, my siblings, and I'm like, oh, I've got to work. And I never really looked at it as giving anything up. I was just like, oh, this is just what I do. Like, I have to do this. I got to go to work. I got to go do this or that. And so I know a lot of time. And I look back and, you know, it is kind of a weird feeling because it's like, do I regret that? Do I regret, going to work versus going to have a Friday night to hang out with my family? I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think it's something that you can look back and regret. I know a lot of that is has got me to to where we are now, and I'm super super grateful for that. But I definitely think you have to still have those priorities and know when to say no because, like I said, I was always a yes person. Like somebody asked me to do something, said yes, yeah, I can handle it. I can handle everything. Pile it on, I'll figure it out, and that's super difficult for me still, but I know a lot more now how to make sure it's in alignment with where I'm actually headed than to just say yes to everything.
I've heard you mention the word alignment quite a bit too. So tell me what like alignment means to you and how you feel like alignment is really kind of crucial to success or building something great.
I think in everything, any organization, so like my own family, my entrepreneur, my real estate team, I'm on some boards of different philanthropies and things like that. And so if we're not all, I say rowing in the same direction, but if we're really not, then it just is dysfunction and it's a lot more stress and things just don't tend to be what they're supposed to be. If that comes out right. That like if the team, and I've been there, like I've had where we were certainly not rowing in the same direction, most definitely not. And we had people going all over the place, but we found a place of getting in the same direction. And now I know I can feel when it's starting to veer off or when something isn't working and I have to like bring it back. And I believe that everything will reach its purpose if you can continue to have that. I don't know how to explain how to get there necessarily, but one thing is for our team, we read The Energy Bus. And that was right around the time where things were a little more difficult and things were kind of all over the place. And once I realized everybody isn't going to be on the bus all the time, like if we might have somebody join us, but they don't may not belong there forever. And that's okay. And it may not be for anybody's fault. It may be because it's just not the right timing anymore. It may be because they're not in alignment with values. It may be they're a wonderful person. It's just not there anymore. And that's what made me be okay with it, but also realize that when you are in alignment, you have to make a lot less hard, not a lot less hard decisions, but things happen more naturally. They just tend to stay there if you can just always keep the vision in mind.
Yeah, organically. There's a lot more like
Yeah.
I think like living like being super honed in well, for me as an entrepreneur, being super honed in on my mission and my vision statement and living my life like in alignment with with the vision and the mission statement is has been super critical for me. So I know exactly I can relate to everything that you're saying. Tell me about a time when you almost gave up, but you didn't.
That was just a few years ago. That was, about 3 4 years ago, I guess, and it was just a lot of stuff in life, like, things were really heavy, and I had personally taken on a lot of stuff. We were building the house I'm sitting in, we were renovating an office, I was trying to build a team, and this is one of those scenarios where I thought, "Hey, just give me the stress, I can do all the things, like, I've never had a breakdown, like, I'm good, I can just handle it and keep moving forward." It's not true. You cannot handle everything. But in my eyes, I really felt like, I could. And so I took everything on and it was just, oh my gosh, it was so much. And at the end of that year, just kind of things just almost like crashing. Like I just realized like I can't handle everything and I'm not who I actually built myself up in my head to be. And I need to take a step back. So we finished things. Now I'm much more intentional about starting a project. I do have to be careful. I also need to have the right people in this with me, right? Like if I'm going to take on a project with somebody else, I need to make sure that we understand whose job is what. And we need to make sure that we are, again, in alignment before we go head on with that project. So it was a big eye opening for me that I cannot take everything on and handle it, that I need to be very careful about, what it is, when it is, and who it's with.
So you almost I don't want to say quit, but you were on the verge. Like what did you do to get yourself back on track? I mean, I know you like it sounds like you came to the realization like the people around me, the people in my inner circle are gonna help carry me, past the finish line. That was maybe one thing, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
what else was it? Like, what did you do to, I don't know, did you change, like, your daily habits at all during that time frame? Or, like, what did you have to change otherwise in your mindset to get past it?
Yeah. Well, I do believe that I had to slow down in some ways. I've always wanted everything to happen like overnight. Like when something gets in my head, I'm like, yeah, I can do it right now. Like, let's just go get it done. And I still have a lot of that. But I also realized that big and awesome things are not built in one day and that it's one step at a time. And so this doesn't have exactly to do with this, but I always say, and this was the time in my life where I really learned this, but when you're feeling really overwhelmed, take everything in your mind and throw it out on a sheet of paper. And then you go and you number it with what is the most priority to get done. And sometimes those are bigger things, sometimes they're smaller. If they're really big, then you take that out and then you break down first steps to do that project. But usually it's a bunch of small stuff that's just feeling overwhelmed and heavy. And then you just have to break those things down and actually put what's a priority. And that's when I learned in that time is to just kind of brain dump and actually set what is on my mind and how do I get these things done.
I love that. So you put it all on a piece of paper, right? And then you kind of chunk it out to this actually maybe deserves some of my attention, but maybe this doesn't. Maybe I can shelf this for a little bit, or maybe it doesn't quite require as much attention as I have been giving it in my mind for.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't we build everything up? Like, don't we build everything up to what it's
Yeah. Yeah.
way more than what it actually is? I'm pretty sure. And I always say I'm not one to super overthink things, but at the same time, I would say, uh, I mean, uh, I don't know I don't know. I think it's just the thing that you have to realize what is actually happening in the moment. And is it really this life changing or life going to dramatically change something or not?
There was a phrase that was said to me when I was sitting in a rehab facility getting sober, and it was something to the effect, if it won't matter in 5 years, don't give it more than 5 minutes of your time and energy. And
Oh, yeah.
I've kind of held that with me since I got sober. Like that one really stuck with me. If it won't matter in 5 years, it really doesn't deserve more than 5 minutes of energy and time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, this is like probably something you say to your team members a lot too, but like as soon as something crazy happens and they're feeling all stressed out or, they lose a client or a deal or, whatnot, and like, hey, you just gotta let it go. Is this gonna like next week? Are you still gonna be thinking about this? No, just let it go. Just let it go. It's fine.
Yeah. That's the abundance, right? Because the
Yeah.
abundance mindset will tell you, okay, instead of dwelling on this, I could pick up the phone and get more business, right?
Yeah,
And
100%. That's
replace it,
exactly what I say. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Well, so last week we had two of our agents who had really, really, really difficult listings. And they were both like, this is just the amount of brain power. Even their spouses were hearing about these properties daily. And I'm like, we need to cut them loose. I got to cut them loose. And so this morning on our huddle, we actually talked. They both did. Both of my agents let their clients loose. And I said, "How are you guys feeling now?" And they were both like, "We're busy." We left that feeling like we had nothing working. And then after that, we were like, now we're way busier than anything we had going on before. Way busier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, because some people and some clients can be like a complete energy suck, and then you're not giving other potential opportunities the attention that they deserve. So it's actually like really holding you back to stay in that,
Absolutely it is.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, Tell me, like, if we took all your success away in your business and your team, who are you at your core?
Gosh, I've never thought about that before. I've really never thought about if everything gets stripped away. I'm just super grateful for everything I have. And I say it all the time. All the time I say it.
Somebody asked me this a long time ago. They go, "Okay, who are you?" And I go, "Oh, I'm a dad." No, that's like what you are, not who you are. I go, "Well, I
Whoa.
I own a real estate company." Nope, it's like we went round and round for like an hour, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know who I am." So I
That
always
is a
ask this
really wild
question.
question. That's a hard one, Ben. That's a really hard one. Without all the things I do and who I am, um, you know, I think I would say I'm just really a person who who's after Jesus, and I really hope that above all the other things, above like when something happens to me, I really hope that they're not like Chelsea was a great realtor. Chelsea was a great entrepreneur. I hope there's something more there. I hope that they know, what my true mission was, not to sell a ton of houses, that it wasn't about that. That's what I really hope people would actually look back and think about me.
I love that.
It's really hard. It's about what we put out there and what we talk about and what they know about us. And sometimes I have to really think about that. What do people think about me? Because I do talk about real estate a lot, my kids a lot, my team a lot, all the things that are like forefront, very, very important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's deep. That was a lot of people struggle with that one more than you did, so good job.
Great. That's so awesome.
Isn't
So
it
glad.
crazy? Like, a lot of us don't know who we are, like, it's so
Oh
funny to
yeah.
me. It's so
It
funny,
is
like
100% true.
we
Yeah.
think we're an entrepreneur, we're a dad, we're whatever, mom, like, a
Yeah.
brother, a dad, like, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
like, I know when I got sober, like, it was funny, like, I printed out, like, this long list of values, like, all like, core values. There's, like, 100
Yeah.
of them, and I just, like, circled the top 10, and, like, that was, like, a kind of a starting point for me to figure out, like, who I actually was,
Yeah.
and so it was kind of a cool exercise. I got 2 more questions for you. So, you could give younger Chelsea, let's say Chelsea, just graduating high school, like high school Chelsea, just graduating. What's the advice?
Don't second guess yourself when you see a vision that you need to go after it. And don't think about it forever. Just do it. Because usually your gut's right. And usually what your vision, you've seen it for a reason. You were given it for a reason. You just need to go do it. And then don't forget to keep the main thing the main thing. And that's God. He's the middle of every single thing. He should be your focus on everything that you do. And if you actually keep that, your life will be pretty straight and narrow. Not that things won't veer off, not that hard times won't come, but always keep him in the center and everything else will revolve, everything else will work.
Love it. Love it. And then what is the single most important lesson that life has taught you? The single most
Um,
important. The only one. You have to pick one.
Gosh, oh man, that is super hard. I think probably that you get only one opportunity. You don't live multiple lives and you can't go backwards. And so, in the spirit of not overthinking everything, also trusting and just doing it. Um, and I know that's like really roundabout, but I know for me personally, I just have to trust and do the thing that I feel like is right and not second guess, not sit around on something forever, but just move on it. And that's really, really hard for me. But I think over time, I've been taught that over and over in multiple ways. And so I'd say, yeah, just move, make the decision and go.
Love it. Love it. That's really good advice. And if somebody is buying or selling or wants to buy or sell real estate, relocating to your area or going out of your area or wants to join your team, like how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, reach out to me. So I'm in Southeast Missouri, so 2 hours south of St. Louis. I'm actually in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. But shoot me an email, Chelsea at thinkteamdillick.com. My phone number is 573-579-2545. You can always call me or text me about anything. I'm always super happy to help. And if you're looking to buy or sell, that's how you can get to me. And or if you're looking to be a realtor.
That too, for sure. It because I could say like if someone's looking to be a realtor in your area, there's like no better choice than you because you lead with values, good values, ethical values, high values. You lead with faith. Just so many. You're just like the most kindest and good-hearted people that I've come across. I think you're awesome. I think the world of you.
I appreciate that so much.
Um,
I really do. I'm very thankful for that. I think that, kind of what we talked about in the beginning of me being like the nice girl, I think I'm highly underestimated. And, that used to bug me, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I'm really thankful for who I have around me and where we're headed and what we built and where we're going. And we still have a lot of stuff to accomplish, a lot of things.
Well, like attracts like, right? So you're hopefully attracting like the good, kind-hearted people who are wanting to serve their community and serve God and be a servant.
That's the best thing about our team. So that's our superpowers, our people, not our systems, processes. Those are all great, but our people are the superpower.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chelsea. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Ben. Appreciate you.